folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. So today's video is going to be my monthly wrap-up for the month of March. Can you just have a moment to talk about how hard March was? March was a month. I know Chelsea had a really rough month with being sick for like 24 days. I got sick twice and I also started a new job, and so March was a little bit of a shit show. Also, I decided to read big, intense books in the month of March, and yeah, so I'm just gonna talk a little bit about March before I get into it. So I did start a new job, yay for me. I'm not gonna tell you guys what it is, but just know that I'm out of the house infrequently throughout the week and at various times throughout the week, so my schedule is just a mess. It's good for me to be out of the house and making money, obviously, but it brings a lot of stress. I'm tired. I come home at the end of the night, I'm wiped. I also have basically a 4-hour commute, so I like bus an hour and a half to 2.5 hours there, an hour and a half to 2.5 hours home. So it basically means I can be out of the house for like 12-hour periods at the time and not reading. So obviously that's going to affect my reading stats a little bit, because since making my booktube channel I have been unemployed the whole time. So you guys are going to kind of see just sort of how my channel evolves and grows as I have less time to read, which I think is really interesting, because I feel like I have to sort of prioritize my reading now, which is interesting. Anyway, that job was a thing that happened, and then I got really sick as well. I had the flu for the first part of March, then I ended up getting food poisoning, so that was real fun. Yeah, so, and then I've just sort of had to adjust to being back on my feet for work, which I haven't done for almost 4 years, and almost at 30 now, I'm realizing that my body does not like standing for 8 hours. It's a rough time. I'm having a rough month. And then for books, I decided to buddy read some big books, and I'm going to talk to you guys about how that went. So if you've clicked on this video, you know that I read a total of 5 books this month. These are them. Obviously not as much as my past months, where I typically read anywhere from 12 to 19 books a month. Obviously a little less, but I had some shit going on and I'm trying to figure out my life. So I'm just going to get into stats. I read a total of 5 books, which equals 2,850 pages. Divide that by 31. I am filming this on the 29th, but I don't think I'm going to finish another book in March, so I'm just ending it at the 5. So divide that by 31, that ended up being 92 pages a day. When you actually break that down, that's pretty good to read 92 pages a day, but there were definitely days that I read an entire book and several days where I didn't read anything. So my numbers are anywhere from around 180 pages a day to 210 pages a day. That's typical if I have time to read. I kind of read about half of what I would normally read this month. So with the 5 books, my star ratings are pretty simple. I had no 1-star books. I had 1 2-star book, 0 3-star books, 2 4-stars, and 2 5-stars, because I enjoyed most of what I read. I finished 1 big-ass book. That was The Stand, and that happened to be what I thought the biggest book that I owned. It's not. It is bigger in this edition, but The Stand was the biggest book that I haven't read yet. I've read it a couple times before, so it ended up being the biggest book that I own that I haven't read, so I did finish that. All my other books were around 300 to 400 pages. I read the 4 YA, Stephen King being the adult book. My genres were 4 contemporary, Stephen King being horror, and then the dates were 2018, 1978, 2016, 2018, 2013. So I still tried to stay true to my challenge, which is to read 3 2018 releases each month. The ones that I read, you'll see, weren't exactly from this month, but I tried, so I'm trying. Then I read 3 male authors and 2 female authors, so that was pretty split. I'm gonna start with the 2-star book and work my way up to the 5-star stuff. So my 2-star book of the month was one of my TBR Star Jar picks that I did manage to finish reading. I will admit, however, that I did definitely skim about 150 pages of this, just to kind of get to the end to see what happened. This is Sarah Dessen's The Moon and More, and this would have been better if I would have read this literally on a vacation or a beach in the summer when I wanted just like a mindless contemporary read. Just sort of this month was not the book for me, and that's sort of the joy of, is you kind of just read things that you're not really in the mood for. This was okay. It's just I ended up giving it a 2 because I didn't care about the characters. I thought it was kind of boring, and that's that. So the story follows a girl who works at a beach in a beach town, and she has a boyfriend, and then this other guy comes into the picture, and her boyfriend split up, and the other guy is there. He's kind of weird. There's some, like, you know, family drama, blah. It was just okay. Like, it wasn't anything groundbreaking. It wasn't anything interesting. I think I'm starting to realize that, like, I like sort of these light beachy reads in a more adult contemporary. The YA ones are just kind of like meh. And then moving on to the 2 4-star books, another TBR star jar that I did finish was The Serpent King by Jeff Zentner. So happy I read this. This was dark, it was beautiful. I definitely had moments in this where I cried. I loved the writing about just like nostalgia and like some of the small town elements and the people and the friendships I definitely could relate to. There is a very heavy religious undertone which I thought I might be able to relate to in some sense, but it ended up being so sort of like far-fetched that I didn't, but that didn't take away from the book in any way. I just found this to be a very hard-hitting, dark, friendshipy YA contemporary, and I liked it a lot, and I think I want to reread this in like August. I feel like this is a good like August, late summer book almost. As well as 3 different perspectives of this group of friends, and I thought I just loved how it talked about sort of one of the friends is a little bit better well off, and the other ones are a little bit more on little lower in like social class and stuff, and what they're dealing with. And yeah, I like this. Okay, this was beautiful. Why do I not have words to describe this? It's been a while. This is going to be a rough time. I haven't filmed in a bit. March was rough, so there's definitely a character in this to where I texted Julie and Chelsea and was like, what the fuck just happened? I am heartbroken. And I think this was actually one character in a book now that I have like an answer for like what character death upset you. This one. This was really good. I do suggest it if you're looking for like a heavier, darker YA contemporary that might make you cry. I gave it 4 stars. I don't know why I didn't give it 5. I think just like the sort of religious aspect I didn't care for that much. Alright, and then moving on to my biggest accomplishment of this month, I finished The Stand. This was a buddy read that I opened up to Twitter and you guys saw. If you guys also followed along and finished it, props. I know the Twitter was amazing. I tried to update it daily. There were definitely days I skipped. There were days where I read multiple ones in one day. But for the most part, going on and seeing #TheStandIsOdd and ow, my leg, and seeing you guys' opinion of the book and seeing where you guys were and thoughts and stuff, it kept me motivated to keep reading it. I think if it wasn't for the buddy read, I definitely would have read probably this in chunks, took a break, picked it back up, and I think having that sort of daily motivation to read like the chunks that I did pushed me to finish this and pushed me to want to keep reading it. There were definitely parts in this that were way more boring than other parts, but for the most part I enjoyed it and I gave it a 4. We'll have a whole Stephen King Sunday about this book, so I don't want to talk in like great detail about what I personally think, but I'm going to give you a little bit of what it's about. So this is a like post-apocalyptic book after a super flu has been released and ends up killing the majority of people. So you are following the ones who do survive and what it means for them to survive and whether or not they sort of join, I guess, sort of good or evil. That's kind of a theme in this. The reason why I ended up giving it a 4 was I enjoyed about 80% of this book. I loved the characters, I loved following them on their adventures but surviving. I liked seeing where they were going, how they dealt with certain issues and challenges. I love that stuff. I could read 5,000 pages of character building. I love Stephen King's character building. This is like a theme of mine. I love it. I love it. I love his big books. You just sort of get a whole idea of like a world. In this case, you get a whole idea of America, which is really cool, and he writes it really well. But at some point in this book, it kind of shifts to a more like supernaturally good versus evil religious tone, which I didn't care for. I thought that without that, it would have been a 5-star book to me, because bringing that in just sort of allowed him to write certain scenes that didn't make a lot of sense, and sort of used, oh, well, it's religion as sort of like a way to not write it as detailed. I hope that makes sense. I don't even know. I've been so long since I filmed, I don't even know if I can describe a book properly. It's just the religious supernatural kind of part of it just kind of killed it for me. I'm not gonna get into spoilers, but the ending, while I did appreciate it for what it wasn't my desired ending. I think a lot of people will agree with me on that. However, I did like how it wrapped up, so there's that. So I ended up giving it a 4. Please let me know down in the comments if you read this along with me, what you ended up rating it. Also, sorry, trigger warnings for death, obviously, sickness. If you don't like reading about plague, nope. If you don't like reading about flus and stuff, nope. There's a lot of racist language on some of the characters, quite a bit. It's pretty kind of like, whoa, upsetting. That's sort of common in Stephen King's earlier works. I'm hoping to continue to read through his stuff and get out of that. So if you are sensitive to that, note. Also, rape, sexual assault, violence. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of everything in this. For a book this size, sadly, you can kind of have to expect that there's going to be some shit that goes down, and it does. So I just want to trigger warn you for that if you're interested in picking this up. But I feel so satisfied having finished this. Yep. So my first 5-star book of the month was one that I ended up buying, read it that day, and finished it that day, and cried and just, whew, had a lot of emotion. So that book was Tyler Johnson Was Here by J. Coles. Oh man, okay. This one, again, there's so many beautiful books being released this year, but this cover is just one of the most stunning covers. I just love it. This book is so gorgeous. I loved it. Gave it a 5. I loved it. So this follows the story of 2 brothers. There's Tyler and Marvin, and they're twins. It follows Marvin as he finds out what happens to his brother after this event, and it ends up being a case of police brutality, and there's like a video of it, and it's sad, it's heartbreaking, and it just talks about grief and a brother's bond and the people that his brother knew, and just, oh, I cried. I definitely cried. It's definitely on the same realm as The Hate U Give, only I feel like this one maybe has like a different way of dealing with grief and a different sort of understanding of it, and I feel like both books are so needed and so necessary. If you are interested in the subject matter in The Hate U Give and you're looking for another story like that, another perspective of police brutality and things, then do pick this up, because it was scary. It was parts of it that I read that I just kind of went, oh my god, like it was scary. And part of it, I mean, I'm getting upset, because it was just, I'm reading this and I'm just like, I don't want any kids to go through this. And the sad thing is that it happens, and it's just, reading those books just sort of put you back into like, oh my god, this happens in real life. And it's just, it made me think a lot of things and feel a lot of ways. And yeah, I read this all in a night, and I just sat in my bathtub and cried because it was emotional. So I do suggest this to everyone to go pick up if you're looking for that kind of book. And yeah, it's beautiful. Also, J. Coles is like the cutest. Like, can we just, like, look how cute. So yeah, he's so cute and super nice on Twitter, so go get his book. And then the last 5-star book of the month is another 2018 releases. The 2018 releases, guys, most of them have been 5 stars this year, because the ones that I'm picking are ones that I'm really excited for, and limiting myself to 3 a month, or in this case 2 that I read this month, really sort of like focuses what I want to read. And so chances are it is something that I'm going to like, and this one again was one that I did. That is Emergency Contact. Oh, this cover by Mary H.K. Choi. This cover is, like, I love both of these covers for different reasons. Like, this one is just gorgeous in what it is, and then this one is like Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr aesthetic, and I'm just fucking obsessed with this cover. Like, look at the artwork on like this guy and the hair and this girl and her hair. This book I read so quick, and I immediately read it and went, oh, I don't have 500 more pages of these characters to read, and it made me sad. Like, you know, I like a book when I finish it and I go, I wanted literally 1,000 more pages of this book. This is probably one of the most modern books that I've read, in the sense of like the language used, set basically in modern day. I'm not gonna lie, I felt like a little bit old while reading this, because this is like 18, 21-year-olds in modern day, like on Instagram, using hashtags and using slang like bae and stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little bit old and sort of like out of touch of like that age group. It did remind me in a lot of ways of my early 20s when I was literally dating this guy. I dated him basically, and it was really weird reading it, because I was just like, this guy is too much like somebody I know, and it was odd. So this follows like a dual perspective. It jumps back and forth between Penny Lee and Sam, and they meet in like a sort of like not really meet cute kind of way, but just like through friends. And he works in a coffee shop and like bakes donuts and stuff, and like I wanted donuts the entire time. And she's sort of figuring out her stuff, and she like writes, and like he's kind of artsy and she writes and blah blah blah. Loved that, loved it. You know, he's covered in tattoos, super skinny, and like whatever, has nice hair. Been there, done that. I definitely related a lot of ways to this, but I loved how the relationship grows by basically texting each other first and becoming very close friends via text. Again, I can relate to that sort of to my early 20s, and yeah, I liked this. This was amazing, and I found that as the story grew, I liked the characters that much more, and like as you sort of are learning more and more about them, and they learn more about themselves and about each other, by the end of this book it was just, they felt like friends to me, and like people I just like want to hang out with and want to see grow, and like, can I just have 6 more of books about these people? Oh, I loved it. I loved it so much. I don't know. I don't know if everyone would like it necessarily, but I definitely did. It was just so cute and like a modern, contemporary, romancy kind of book. And there were just like real life issues in it that they needed to deal with that I liked. I don't even know how much more to describe it. But anyway, I loved it. Also, can we just talk about how freaking cute she is? Oh, loved it. Follow her on Twitter. She's funny on Twitter too. So yeah, those were the books that I read this month. I absolutely loved all of them pretty much, except for that Sarah Dustin book. The ones that I did read I really enjoyed, and I suggest that you read them. While it may not have been a month filled with a ton of books, it was filled with books that I did like and I feel successful. And I kind of just want you guys to all know that sometimes you have rough months, and if you don't read as much as you did in previous months, it's okay. It's life. Life happens. Yeah, it's okay to not read 37 books in a month. It's okay. Also, I will mention that I definitely started a lot of books this month that are not in this I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading like 4 other books, so those will be in April because I just don't have time to finish them before I film today. Anywho, so you guys will see those in my April wrap up. So I do hope you guys like this video. Let me know down below if you're interested in any of these, if you've read any, and how y'all are doing. Was March better for you? Tell me, I want to know. Until my next one, I will talk to all of you soon. Bye!